Now, unfortunately, I think you and I grew up on the type of history where events went ahead of people. And that's why we hated history. We didn't hate history, we hated the way it was taught because it was so event driven.
Well, Linda, welcome back to the podcast. And let's talk about the what. Let's talk about what is it that we need to teach. And you touched a little bit on this on Monday, but I want to go a little bit deeper into the what is it actually that we need to be teaching our kids? Like, can you maybe give us an order of what to teach when?
Sure. I think what really helps is a visual of a funnel. So picture, broad first and narrowing it down. Now, I might surprise you by the order I'm going to put the funnel in, but I would say top of the funnel is time period, because to make history a bit more manageable, we really need to divide it by time period. I'll name them in just a few minutes, the common ones. So think time period first, and then the next part of the funnel, I'm picturing the people that lived of that era. And then last, I'm going to put the events. Now, unfortunately, I think you and I grew up on the type of history where events went ahead of people. And that's why we hated history. We didn't hate history. We hated the way it was taught because it was so event driven, dates and treaties and such. Yeah. And we didn't have time to get to the stories of the people.
Right.
So I would go time period first, people second, and then I'm going to sprinkle in the events because obviously we need both people and events really working together. But with a stronger emphasis on people, lots of things happen. Now, before I get into all that, let me go back to the time periods, though, just in case some of your listeners are sort of new to what's even out there on the market. So there are commonly 4 eras that tend to get marketed out there. It is ancient, first of all, then it is medieval, then the Renaissance and Reformation usually go together, and last, modern. And then, of course, American history is its own standalone that can go in any order broken in through there. Now, I just wanted to say that as a Christian, I'm going to add a layer to each one of those time periods. For example, ancient for me is not only going to be the secular, but the sacred. So I'm going to weave Bible history and world history together in ancient times. For the medieval time period, I'd like to hone in on the history of the church, what was going on after Christ. And then third, with the Renaissance, it really is looking at the Reformation because it really shows God's hand as man thinks he's just all that during the Renaissance. God's like bringing him down and going, And then with modern history, I think it's just important to continue to see God's hand, perhaps in American history or wherever the student lives anywhere in the world. So it's finding yourself in modern time. So that's just a quick thing on the 4 time periods. Can we go back to people now?
Yeah, yes.
That's so much more fun to talk about. So again, I rank the study of the people higher. For one, because of what we stated the other day, is that looking at the people, for one, it reveals the nature of mankind, which is that we are all depraved, sinful, and in need of salvation. That's why there is a gospel. So first and foremost, the study of people shows us the flaws of, quote, the good guys and the bad guys, because even the good guys had their flaws. But of even greater importance, people make history so much more interesting.
Yeah. I agree.
Oh, goodness. I hated history growing up. I've probably told you that before because, like most others, I was suffering under books stuffed with facts, treaties, things to memorize that didn't hold meaning to me. But I will never forget, Yvette. I was a freshman in college. I was in my first Western Civ class, and I sat on the front row, and the professor began to tell stories. I'm pretty sure he started off with the Tudor family, like Henry VIII and all his wives. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know that was in history. I mean, it's, of course, quite a soap opera, the Tudor family, but it drew me in because it was stories about people. I don't think the man even used notes. And that just lit me up. So people are more interesting. But I have another favorite example I have to give you. So once in a while, it's not uncommon for me to be at a flea market or a garage sale or a thrift store, and I find a history book. And what I'll do just for fun is I'll flip the history book to the back, to the index, and I look up Cleopatra. And in most history books, you turn to the page with Cleopatra, and it's going to give you 3 or 5 sentences about her because they put all the history in one book, which is a mistake. But anyway, those 3 or 5 sentences are only going to reveal something along the lines of she was an Egyptian queen, the last of the Ptolemies, Well, first of all, you can't even pronounce Ptolemies. It starts with the letter P. So, it's like, so what? That doesn't mean anything. But if you want to tell me the way she first met Julius Caesar, which is that she had herself wrapped up in a carpet and dropped into his office, well, that's going to get my attention. Then he's assassinated on the windy Ides of March. So she attaches herself to Mark Antony, who dresses like an Egyptian when he marries her. So the Romans hate him. She winds up in a civil war with Romans. And to make long story short, as a result of her death and Mark Antony's, Octavian takes the throne of Rome, who would name himself Caesar Augustus and run a census about 20 years into his reign that all would be taxed and needed to go to their homeland, which is why Mary and Joseph saddled up. She's with child and go to Bethlehem. So all to say, that is a story of a person that had a tremendous influence indirectly over even fulfilling Scripture. It was prophecy that Christ would be born in Bethlehem. That requires a story of Cleopatra if you really want to pull it all together. So anyway, now that was long ago. I do have one a little bit more recent, may I? Since you revealed in our last episode that I'm writing American history. So I do have to add this one. I have not terribly long ago become enthralled with John and Abigail Adams because I started reading all of their letters. Now, a lot of people already know them through their love letters. Those that don't, they were separated for years during the American Revolution, and therefore they wrote letters back in the day with no phones and no text. So we have letters. We have captured their romance and love for each other. But I liked learning who they were first as people, so that then when I drop them into the events of the American Revolution, I'm like, oh, that's what Abigail had to say when she stood on the hill and saw, the Battle of Bunker Hill, or like, oh, that's what he said to her, after, he had this horrible experience in England. It's like their letters or the events of the American Revolution meant more after I knew them. That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you've just got to prioritize people.
Homeschool Insights is brought to you by Apologia, BJU Press Homeschool, and CTC Math. Visit the show notes to learn more about these excellent homeschooling resources. And for more encouragement, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast at schoolhouserocked.com.